Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the video. I'm in probably the weirdest place I could maybe record a video, but today we're going to talk about a video I made a couple months ago called a cinematic corporate film. I have my computer right here and I want to go through kind of each of our steps in creating this really impactful film. Let's start the intro here to start.
I wasn't ready for them to know what I was going through because I had to project an image. But in that time, I think I had lost who I was and was going through the motions. But I continued to press forward, saying, I need to find a way to connect.
So in this video today, we're gonna break down this video from pre-production, production, and post-production. I'm gonna briefly just kind of talk to you about how we made this film and how we put it together. So starting off, the first thing was pre-production, and we learned about this story from our client. And typically whenever I learn about a story from a client, it might not be the best story. So the first thing that we did is we did a pre-production call. In that pre-production call, I got to learn and talk to Spencer, get to learn more about him and kind of about his story, a little bit about his story, not all of it, just enough so we could gauge like, was this going to be good? Would he be a good character to be on screen? This is incredibly important before you make a film. The next thing we did is we set up a time to film this, and thankfully enough, Spencer was coming to Atlanta a couple of months down the road, and it worked out perfectly to create the scenes that we wanted to create for this exact film. So we had 2 days. So the things that I knew that I wanted to get is an outside setting, something where we could film him outside. Somewhere in the corporate kind of environment where he's around the classroom, around other attendants. 3, kind of something outside of the room. Maybe it's in the front office, maybe it's, in the halls walking and talking, maybe it's something else. And then we had the interview, and then I knew that I wanted to create kind of this scene where he was in a circle and he was alone, it was dark and it was moody, and trying to create that moodiness was super important. So with all those things in mind, we go to production. All right, so for the first day of production, all I did was introduce myself to Spencer in real life, have real conversations, make him more comfortable around the camera. So all we did that day was shoot B-roll. Now, a really important thing that I did was I had him mic'd up the whole entire time for this whole day and also the second day. But I had this mic on him, so whenever I really wanted to use his audio, I would. Now, I made sure before I did anything that Spencer was just aware and knew that I cared about him, I cared about his story. I was never going to shoot anything that made him look bad or record audio that made him look bad. I just wanted to make him know that we really truly care about creating something that's a great representation of him. And that was important. It's important for your character to have trust in you. And this first day is just a really good way for you to build trust with that character. So throughout the day, we filmed things, we filmed plants, we filmed other things. We just filmed, and in moments, we got our basic kind of shots that we needed. And then whenever I had the time, I could get creative and create other shots and make the scene more moody by maybe just underexposing my image just a little bit to make it different. The greatest thing is that they were going around the circle, they were telling kind of each other these problems and these fears that they had. So those are great moments where I could make things just like this and use his live audio.
What gets me out of bed in the morning is very similar to what I've been hearing around the room. Is I also have that strong desire to improve, not only myself, but helping others succeed. I get validation and reward and motivation when I see others actually achieve their goals.
I thought this is a big gamble.
Again, all this was filmed after the fact of him having this aha moment. So we had to create the scenes and the settings that we thought we needed to make it feel like that you were kind of in the moment of this. So we filmed all our B-roll, and the next day was the most important day, and it was getting the interview. So during filming all this B-roll, there was this moment, a magical moment that happened that I wasn't planning for. And a lot of the great moments that you see in this, you don't really plan for. You just hope that they happen or something cool happens in the moment. there was a moment outside of our normal typical room that was like kind of dark. It's whenever Spencer told his story of what was going on in his life. And thankfully, because I had a mic, I could press record, I could record on my camera and create and record this awesome moment where he just opened up to the people around him, which incredibly thankful that he did to those people so that they could see how important it is to be open, how important it is to be authentic and to just connect with others. Spencer is just the prime example of this in kind of the corporate world. So just a really important thing is there's moments where you're gonna have enough footage, but keep your eyes open, be aware of what's happening around you and the emotions that are happening around you. And you might catch a moment that is super important that you should press record on. You could capture that moment that this person is opening up. And thankfully we got this moment. But the next thing is the most important day, and it's filming the interview. So I came in this with 0 questions, and I'll be honest, many times I don't come into an interview with any questions at all. The reason being is that I want these interviews to be incredibly casual and almost like a coffee shop conversation. I always say that. I want us to feel like that we're having coffee across the table and we're just getting to know each other. That is incredibly important to me. And what I do when I go into these interviews is I'm just curious. I'm just a curious person wanting to know about him and his life and his family and what went on and what means to him, what matters most to him. All those things are really important to me. Typically, whenever you do that, you can create something that's really beautiful. But an important thing that you need to make sure you don't do, like I often do all the time, is I get so much of this emotional context, I don't get those kind of nitty-gritty details that can really push the story along. Thankfully though, we interviewed one person before we ever interviewed Spencer. Her name was Jill. We actually interviewed Jill weeks and weeks before this interview in preparation for the actual film. I talked to Jill and I almost wanted her to be kind of the liaison for us through this film, to guide us through in moments where we needed to move past it. Because if Spencer was the only person on camera the whole time, you'd probably get kind of bored. So it's nice to have someone that kind of guides you along the journey. And I'm thankful that Jill was able to do that for us in a beautiful way. So that's where that second shot kind of comes from with her talking on camera. The hardest part of this conversation is that Spencer was very much so still going through a lot of grieving through what happened in his life. And so he was emotional and he had a lot of things to say. And so as the interviewer, it was really important for me to, whenever I wanted him to be happy, to be overly happy. When I wanted him to be more toned down, for me to be toned down. That's a super important thing that people don't ever talk about, is that you as an interviewer are the reflection of how you want your character to be. And if you aren't reflecting what you want them to have on camera, well, they're just not going to give that to you. So you are a reflection of your character. So energy, you be energy. Tone down, you be toned down. After that, after filming the interview, we were creative and we filmed this really cool intro sequence of Spencer walking through this train station in Atlanta, and it was almost like his entrance of going to this big corporate building. We filmed with some of the main leaders in the front office and we just had them have a conversation. We didn't record the audio. That was something that was not important. Just getting those moments of them having a conversation were really important. From there, we went upstairs and we filmed him around the circle, and we used these 2 lights to kind of frame him nicely. It was kind of dark, but it was perfect. And we created that moment of distress that he was going through and all the emotions that he was feeling, and trying to create that on camera was important. Again, you have to have a character that's been willing to do this. They have to trust you, and that is super important. We've got to build that in the first day. There were some questions that people had about the interview, so I'll go through our shots in the interview. I like to have the person I'm interviewing look directly down the lens, so I actually had a teleprompter set up right here in front of the camera that was reflecting me to him, so it was almost like a little Zoom call. I like that because it makes you build connection and trust with the person by looking directly into the lens. You just feel connected with them. And then secondly, I wanted that second camera to be at an angle. I wanted it to be on the short side of the frame, because in the moments where he was going through a lot and expressing his emotions, I wanted you as a viewer to feel uncomfortable too. So putting him in the short side of the frame helps you feel a little bit uncomfortable, makes it feel off, and that's what I wanted from that. But okay, we're almost done here. In post-production, this is what I did. I brought in the interview. I cut up the interview the way I wanted it to be. I did that first. I created the story. Then from there, I ended up creating the intro first. I wanted that intro to be fast. I wanted it to be interesting. I wanted it to hook you as a viewer, for you to have a question in your mind of what is this gonna be about. There, I started to lay down a very subtle baseline track of music that wasn't overpowering, but something that just gave you some feelings. Almost like a subconscious thought that you were having, but it's the music. And then after doing all those things, I listened to it over and over and over again. I cut out some of the parts you don't really think that are important for the film, where they don't really add anything important. And then you put in the sound effects, and with those sound effects, just making it massaging the moments that you want the moments to be important, and making it just feel cohesive and full. And then from there, lastly, is adding any motion graphics that you need to make it kind of a full piece, with some coloring at the very end, and then you're done. And that's how we created that film. I know that I'm saying this in a very fast way, and you probably have questions. So if you do have questions more about how we created this film about Spencer, please put them below. That'd be amazing. But I hope that you enjoyed this video of me recording myself in a closet, this white closet with no clothes. And hopefully it sounds good. I've been using this DJI mic a little bit more because it's convenient. But thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate it. It does mean the world if you click play on this and you actually watch. Thank you for those who watched that cinematic corporate film that I posted a month or so ago. If you haven't watched that, please go and watch it. It's something that was fun to make and meant a lot to me to make. Thank you to everyone that was involved in creating this film. Without you, it wouldn't have been possible. So please like this video. Please subscribe, that'd be amazing. Leave a comment below. Thanks so much. Peace.